Okay, thanks. At the University Press, we are going to have this presentation on competence-based learning. Albert Einstein already said education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. And along this presentation, we are going to see that we have to develop competences that are not going to be forgotten. This is me. The first thing we would like you to do is to start with a reflection on what competence means for you. There are several definitions. We are going to just list some of them. Some people say that it's the outputs of results of training, inputs or underlying attributes required for a person to achieve competent, effective, or outstanding performance. The ability to use knowledge and make things happen. And finally, the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to successfully perform at work, in school, and in everyday life. And this is the definition we are going to use along the presentation. When we talk about competence-based teaching or competence-based instruction, we are thinking of an approach to teaching that is going to focus on teaching the skills and behaviors needed to perform competences. Considering competences as skills is going to help us see why competences can be observable. Performance, on the other hand, is the way a person uses knowledge. What is the implication for English language teaching? That we have to redefine the roles of faculty, the roles of institutions, and the roles of accreditors. Why? Because we have to make the connection between competences and the workplace, not only competences for education. In a competence-based training approach, unlike the unit of progression in the traditional approach, which is time, the unit of progression is, this time, the mastery of a specific knowledge and skills. And again, this is learner-centered, not teacher-centered. And what does this mean? This means that we have to focus on the learner's needs, interests, and motives. And time for reflection again. As a language learner, what competences would you like to achieve? Competence is a pattern of behavior that achieves as a result of your individual desires, and it's shown by your behavior. Since competences are observed in public behavior, the people who experience your behavior can provide you with feedback. And then competences can be improved. They can be learned through training, coaching, mentoring, personal development, and the job experience. And there is also an element of innate factors such as personality or genetic inheritance. There is a model, which is called the iceberg model, trying to show these aspects of competences. What is observable, and that includes the knowledge, the experiences, and what is private, which includes the personality traits and the genetically determined abilities. What are the characteristics of competence-based training programs? First, that competences are carefully selected. And that's why it's learner-centered. The learner, the institution, the workplace are the ones who chooses the competences. There must be a supporting theory integrated with the skill practice and the training materials to support this acquisition of knowledge and skills. In other words, the schools, the institutions, the workplaces have to decide what competences they want their workers or students to achieve, but also how and why they expect these competences. We all know that practice makes a master, provided sufficient time and appropriate training methods. What does this mean in our classrooms? That we have to choose the correct activities, the right tasks that are going to suit our learners' needs and are going to suit the institution's choice of competences. Time for more reflection. What actions would you follow to achieve the competences that you said you wanted to get as a language learner? Because It's not only to know about the competences, it's also to know how to achieve them. More characteristics. Some participants already have, some more characteristics of competence-based programs is that some participants already have the competences that the institution requires. And then, in this case, there is no need for these people to enter the program. If you remember the situation in the classroom, we normally ask our students to take a placement test. Students who have achieved the level of competence and performance required do not need to take the courses. How do we measure the completion of the training, the achievement of competences? We measure the achievement of competences in different ways. In the case of the language classroom, we use the well-known Common European Framework, which is this guideline used to describe the achievements of learners of foreign languages across Europe and other non-European countries. What kind of indicators the Common European Framework has? We can see that mostly the different levels are described in terms of what people can do with the language: understand, use, recognize, produce, etc. All of this program for achieving competences is reflected in the syllabus. The syllabus is a plan that institutions choose to help students or participants achieve the competences. And elements of the syllabus are the content, which is the knowledge that you want to pass on, the procedure, which is how this knowledge is going to be achieved and how it's going to be shown, and the values. The values is an important element because we are preparing people to achieve competences not only for the classroom but also for life. This is an example of a syllabus. It's taken from the text Family and Friends from Oxford University Press, and you can see how the syllabus is presented in terms of content, the knowledge, which is the contenidos conceptuales, the procedure, which is contenidos procedimentales, and the values, which is contenidos actitudinales. Most schools use this kind of syllabus to show the competences that they expect their students to achieve. But how about us teachers? We've been talking about the competences students or language learners or learners in general need to achieve. We as teachers also need to achieve specific competences. And this is reflection number 4. As a language teacher, what competences would you like to achieve? Some possible answers are more knowledge on methodology. And the action plan to achieve this could be to attend events, academic events, to register in courses, to obtain degrees, etc. Another competence that is needed might be to be more technology literate, and that also implies get more practice, get more knowledge on this. To be more, become more experts on doing research and action research in the classroom. To improve our language proficiency, because we never cease learning. We are not native speakers. We need to improve the language that we are going to use to model language for our students. And also what is called the soft skills or personal qualities. Soft skills is something that all professionals need to achieve in order to expand their employability. What are soft skills? Soft skills are personal qualities, habits, attitudes, social graces that make someone a good employee and compatible to work with. Soft skills are valued sometimes even more than the hard skills and than the skills that the employees need to perform their job. Some examples of soft skills are, for example, to have strong work ethics, to have a positive attitude. One very important soft skill is to have good communication skills. Time management abilities, and time management is a crucial issue for teachers who always feel that never have the chance to do as much as they want in the short time assigned. Soft skills means also to have the ability to accept and learn from criticism, and to have the flexibility and the adaptability to accept and embrace changes. And one last soft skill could be to be able to work well under pressure. We are always under pressure because of the syllabus. We need to finish a syllabus. We need to cater for our students' needs. And we have to do all of that in time. How is performance assessed? In different ways. But if we are talking about performing, to assess that the students or the participants have achieved the competence, the most logical way of assessing is to see the person performs the activity, performs an activity in which he shows that he has achieved the competences approved by the institution. Another way of assessing the achievement of competences is using project-based learning. In this way, you can engage students in meaningful and relevant work, and also you are going to keep motivation going. Portfolios are another example of how to assess performance, how to assess achievement, and this is a good way for students or participants to show their competences. We have to talk, because we live in the 21st century, we have to talk about 21st century competences. And 21st century competences are competences for life. And to have a better idea of what we mean, we are going to use models, competency models. What are models? Models are ways which business and industries propose to communicate their skill needs, to let us know what they expect from us, what competences they expect us to show. A competency model is useful to organize the competences needed to perform in a particular work setting. But also, they are the foundation for developing the curriculum and the training materials that our students and participants need. And finally, the competency model helps us to develop the certification requirements, the job descriptions, and the performance reviews. So they are really very useful, and every institution can develop the competency model that they require. One example is the pyramid model. In the pyramid model, we have basically three sections. We have on the top the occupation-related competences, in the middle the industry-related competences, and at the basis we have the foundational competences. In the occupational-related competences, we have all the management competences, such as networking, such as entrepreneurship, such as the ability to plan and to work with budgets, together with the occupation-specific requirements, that depending if it's the hospitality area, they will have their own requirements. In the middle, we have the industry-related competences, which are specified by every sector representative of the different industries. And then the foundation competences are divided into three main areas: workplace competences, academic competences, and personal effectiveness competences. And what we mean is that in school, in the institution, we have to focus on these foundation-related competences. Teaching English is not only to teach the basic 4 skills, it's to teach competencies that are going to help the students to be more accessible to work, to good jobs, to be able to do some further studies with the right study strategies, and also that make them interact with other people and develop their emotional intelligences. This is the clearinghouse competence model. Academic competences that need to be developed in our institutions are mathematics, listening and speaking, basic computer skills, active learning, science and technology, critical and analytical thinking, communication, and reading and writing. So it's not only the 4 skills, but it's much more than that. especially critical thinking, the ability to think at higher levels of thought. We're going to see some of them, and we are going to see how close they are to the common European framework indicators. For example, regarding speaking, speaking, no matter what language, no matter what job you are aiming at, the competences you have to develop means that you have to be able to express information, taking into account the audience and the nature of information. You must be able to speak clearly and confidently using proper English, proper tone, proper pace, and you have to track the response of your audience and react appropriately to those responses, meaning you have to make effective use of eye contact and nonverbal expression. When we say that active learning is one academic competence that we have to help our students to develop, we mean we have to help the students to acquire appropriate learning strategies, and make them apply these techniques to acquire new knowledge and skills. They have to learn what strategies help them to process and retain information, and they have to be autonomous enough and aware enough to identify when it's necessary to acquire new knowledge and skills, and integrate this knowledge with existing knowledge and skills. Regarding communication, literature tells that education and training should have a common goal, which is directed towards explicit outcomes. Students, participants of competence-based training should know what is expected from them, what it is the final outcome that they have to achieve, because this helps them focus, what knowledge they need to acquire and where this knowledge has to go or has to be applied. Emotional intelligence is important when we talk about communication. And emotional intelligence is described as the ability to identify, assess, and control the emotions, not only of your own, but of others and of groups. When you develop emotional intelligence competences, you show that you have cognitive ability, that you have intrapersonal ability, and that you have interpersonal ability. The competences for reading are to be able to understand and interpret written information, but not only texts, because now reading is multimodal, and students have to be trained to learn manuals, reports, memos, letters, but also visuals, forms, graphs, charts, tables, calendars, signs, notices, directions. Reading has changed from the way we were taught 5 years ago. Still, students have to identify main ideas, details, etc. But this time, we expect them to be more critical and be able to understand and make inferences, to understand bias in the text, to integrate what they learned from written materials with prior knowledge, and to apply all of this to specific tasks and future situations. Those were the academic competences that are required for the 21st century. But there are also workplace competences, which are the capacity to work in teams, the capacity to see beyond the picture, to see the big picture, which is creative thinking, possibility to adapt to changes, adaptability and flexibility. Problem solving is also another competence that is very much required in workplaces. Decision making. Working with tools and technology, it means to know what you need according to the specific job you have. And business fundamentals, which is to be aware of the situation of the mission and vision of your company, and of course, business ethics. And last but not least, we have the personal effective competences that need to be known and need to be focused in our classrooms. And this means students have to know that they would expect it to show integrity, initiative, professionalism, dependability. They have to be someone whose bosses can delegate and rely on, and willingness to learn. To finish with this presentation on competence-based training, training and assessment is linked to behavior, to performance. Participants in these training courses should learn in an environment that duplicates or simulates the workplace. That's why we use so many role plays, acting out, project work, etc. in our classrooms, because what we are trying to do is bring the outside world into the classroom, because our students would have to show the outside world, once they are there, that they have acquired the competences that they need to perform effectively and successfully. Assessment of skills requires tests using simulations, work samples, and the best approach for training is to use instruction technology and simulations. What are the benefits of competence-based training? Participants will achieve the competences required for the job. Not only the academic skills, the academic competences, but also specific competences for work, effective personal competences, plus the competences that every single institution requires. Participants are going to build self-confidence because they are not going to be in unexplored land. They have already practiced developing the skills and competences that they would need when they leave the classrooms. Training time would be more effectively used by the teacher because the teacher has become a facilitator of learning and not the provider of information. And also, training time will be more effectively used because it will be devoted to evaluating the participants' ability to perform essential job skills using the portfolios, the project work, and the acting out that has been practiced in the classroom. Thank you very much. I hope that you find this presentation useful.